On your plate, the meat that does not have any sauce in it is mutton. In Western Kentucky, it's one of the only places where we eat sheep, and we smoke it and we barbecue. It pairs really well with our barbecue dip. We have barbecue dip, so that is a vinegar-based sauce or a Worcestershire-based sauce versus a sweeter, thicker sauce. It pairs very well with a gamey meat. So mutton is the one without the sauce on it. Then if you go around, there's one that does not look like beans. That is our chip barbecue. So how we make our chip barbecue, we smoke pork and mutton every single day, and we take the bark or the outside of the pork and mutton. We mix it together, chop it up really fine, and soak it overnight in our barbecue. It is my favorite barbecue. It's what I grew up on. I didn't know there was any other barbecue that existed when I was young. So we are most known across Western Kentucky and across the state for our barbecue baked beans. On average, we sell about 37,000 pounds of beans a year in a town of 27,000 people. So we're very well known for our beans. So I can't wait for you to try all of our barbecue, but especially our beans. Folks use flavor wood. I don't call that traditional Kentucky barbecue. But yeah, in Western Kentucky, the way we do it, if you walk into a restaurant, one, before you walk in, there's smoke coming out the chimney, so you know it's a barbecue restaurant. And then there's come over, the smell of the neighborhood smells like the smoke of meat. And then as you walk in, there's a pit in the middle of the restaurant. And that pit is where we smoke everything. So versus a smoker where the smoke is over to the side, our fire is underneath. So what's really important about mutton when it smokes, you smoke it for about 9 to 12 hours. Fat or the drippings drip down into the fire and come back up into the meat. It makes it more moist. Because of that mutton fat and that grease, now it makes it very difficult to keep that pit clean. What you're getting is the more flavorful meat comes from the fact that the drippings go into the fire and come back up. Again, it is my favorite barbecue, and a lot of people would throw this away. So as I said, we separate certain parts of the meat. So when we pull the mutton, we separate the outside or the harder edges. When we pull the pork, we do the same thing. And then we combine it, chop it up really fine, and soak it so that harder edge becomes softened. And we soak it in our barbecue dip. So you've got the smoky flavor, but you've also got the flavor of the dip, which turns into a barbecue. At other restaurants, you might hear them call it bug ends.
Okay.
So that's very Texas. But what they don't do is they don't soak it into sauce. Whereas we soak it overnight in the sauce to soften it and turn it into a barbecue.
You're 4.5 and 6.5 a year, and a mixture of 78, 13.9 and 70, 21 Robert. All made by the man to the left as well. So I'll give a little history on the whiskey itself. Silk Velvet is actually a pre-prohibition brand from Henderson, Kentucky as well. It was started by a man named Colonel A.S. Winstead, and he married a lady named Erica Worsham. Now, that's not really a big deal, except for her family was a distilling family. And he was very interested about it and actually started learning from her family on how to distill whiskey and everything. He started getting so good at it that people started saying his barrels were smooth as silk. And so he leaned into it, and eventually he was like, I'm going to leave the family business and I'm going to start my own. And in 1880, he did just that. He built a distillery to the absolute max. We have records all the way back then to every single piece of equipment he had. And to show you also of how big he was, his very first order was for 5,000 barrels to New York City. So for a little distillery brand new in Henderson, Kentucky, to ship 5,000 barrels in 1880, that shows you how far his reach are gone. So I wouldn't want to be at the family dinner when he told his wife's family that he was leaving to compete against them, but her family's distillery also ended up becoming another distillery that you might have heard of, Peerless, out in Henderson, Kentucky as well. So back from about 1880 all the way up till Prohibition, Henderson had the Winstead Distillery producing Silk Velvet, and then the Peerless Distillery producing Peerless as well. The blend you're having also though is the blend is at 107 proof.
Our bean has been made from the 80s. They were throwing a lot of pork skin and fat away. What we've learned at our restaurant is we pretty much use everything. They decided they wanted to use this pork fat and create a bean. So the beans are made with pork that's smoked on the pit, as well as our barbecue. So our barbecue gives us inside the bean. So it has that nice smoky flavor from the pork. And then the way our dip is made, all the spices are in the dip. So when you add the dip to the beans, you're not adding a whole bunch of spices. They're already to the dip. So you get this nice smoky, sweet flavor. You've had people call it high five, or it's like Kentucky Christmas. My dad had the restaurant. I took over about 2 years ago, and I'm working to get the beans in grocery stores locally and hopefully regionally of the national. We sell about 37,000 pounds in a building that's very tiny, follows about as big as this stage right here. And it comes up 27,000 people, and it can be 47,000.
What you're trying with this, though, is our silver ballot. This was our initial release, and also the rarest barrel. You will not find this anywhere else. So this was barrel number one. In December of 2020. So the brand itself, during Prohibition, and it laid to rest for a little over 100 years, and then we were able to resurrect it back in December 2024. So this is the 75 corn, 21 rye, 4% malted barley, again made by Jacob Cole, and this is also at 107 proof. Jacob was employee number one and resurrected the Green River Distillery in Owensboro, and his whiskeys are still being poured throughout this festival. Yeah.
Don't say that too loud. It's fine. There's several out here.
I've been a bourbon fan for as long as I can remember. I was lucky enough to be able to join JK, the pre-resurrection upgrade member, and so I was a part of that team as well. And then Jacob started a distillery in Western Kentucky, and I jumped at the opportunity to join him. Luckily, our offices are right beside each other. And so when I brought the brand, showed it to him, said, hey, we've got a great story, but we need great juice behind it. And luckily, he often said, I've got you. Well, we're tasting barrels throughout the house. We have a lot of those barrels that he made that had the previous distillery. But we're tasting them through the house, and we found those exceptional barrels. The Silver Velvet single barrel, what you're trying now, is where those barrels go. Well, the single barrels were 6 to 7 years, so just depending on when the barrels are ready. We've got now 18 barrels out of it, and I don't know if it's just because of the significance, but this is still my favorite one. And with their pairing them with the beans on there, I think the sweetness of the bourbon really shines out with that smoking flavor of the beans. I think I don't care to really get the fruits.
We are one of 81 barbecue restaurants, along with called the West Kentucky Barbecue Belt. So right now you're on the Bourbon Trail. In Central Kentucky, Western Kentucky, we have a belt. If you love barbecue and you love to do road trips, it is a great way to drive along West Kentucky. Try one of the 81. Hopefully you'll stop in Henderson, visit us. We're right next to Owensboro, and a lot of people do like barbecue. So we're about 25 minutes away. Hopefully you've enjoyed our barbecue a little bit more than you like. My goal is, we just like here when people come to visit all the bourbon distilleries, we can taste them all. Same thing with bourbon. Hopefully you like mine. Hopefully you find a favorite over at Moonlight or somewhere else along the belt. But hopefully you enjoy our banana pudding. It is a very simple, we highlight the bananas and the brain. We don't do anything fancy. It's just banana pudding. And it is in a shot glass for you to keep and take with you.
That's what they always made. And he had to go back to Florida, so as soon as he left, he changed the recipe to the 70-to-1 and stuff. But so this is actually a pretty special barrel, and I bought and kept a lot of the first barrels that we had made. So this is a barrel number one, Western Kentucky Distilling is the label on it. It's a single barrel that we all hand-picked. And this is a sweet, oaky, 121 proof barrel. We just thought it was really good with the banana pudding. So, enjoy it. So, my 8th generation, the first is a guy named Samuel Fall, C-A-R-L, who came to Bourbon County, Kentucky. And they in 1791, a year before Kentucky was a state. And more modern times, my grandfather was in Indian, my dad worked until there. We moved to Florida in the 90s, and my father created all the Cruzan where I was brought up, did all the Cruzan on and single barrels thoroughly. And he's done a lot of different things. He's done things like crazy power head and flavor. on the other building. Yeah, we bottled about 8 different cases in Florida.
They contributed to your milk teas and cows.
Yeah. Actually, I went to Murray State and down in West Kentucky, and I worked in the summers at 40 distillers. We also had a cattle ranch down there, so I took care of probably 300 head of cow. So the guy at the plant, I worked at the plant, he was bottling along and his processing and summers, and when I go off, I was in the load my pickup truck up. So I was basically a mortified bootlegger going back to Murray State. Everybody was working on the pickup truck to get from everything. Because believe it or not, Murray is a dry county. Yeah, I grew up in this business. Did all the hard jobs nobody really wanted. Yep, been a fun ride.
Families in the state of Kentucky. And then his dad, also at GMB, worked under a guy you might have heard of named Roper No. So the knowledge being passed down throughout the generations of the all family is invaluable. And it shows in the whiskey that you're drinking.
Get